Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going good. There's a lot going on in the Hedera space, but I want to make the note, as always, none of this is financial advice. We're going to be getting into the HBAR market. We're going to be getting into DeFi. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. The first thing that I want to get into is some coverage in the mainstream media. We had a Bloomberg article. And one of the things it said, if established and regulated financial service companies move their home lending documentation onto such a system, and of course they're talking about blockchain here or DLT, eventually they might move myriad other services too. We've already seen some well-known companies investing in blockchain technology. Hedera Hashgraph has buy-in from some of the biggest names in technology and banking, including Boeing, Deutsche Telekom, Google, LG, and Nomura. Zep, the thing that I thought was interesting about this is because of all the stuff that's coming out about FTX, they are looking for what is going on in the DLT space that could survive, that could actually add value to other things outside of just crypto trading and speculation. And of course, Hedera is well positioned to be one of those networks that, of course, is adding value to all kinds of different use cases. So I thought that one was really good to see. Did you catch this article?
Yeah, I think, mirroring what you're saying there is that, new eyes coming over, exploring, looking for the mature products in the market or as mature as they can be. And I think this like links back to like a thesis that I've kind of, I'm sure a lot of people in the HBAR community have had for a while, which is that when legislation comes in and, when new money comes in and new eyes, they're going to be looking for the brands that they're familiar with, which is, the Googles, the Boeings, the LGs that are all on our council, but the ones that are also actually doing something above the noise, above what the mainstream media normally covers, real value, real on-chain value. And I think this is, just a positive indicator that people do see us when they do some bit of research, some proper research, and that we are coming above the fray to a certain extent already. And I'm excited to see that.
And we had an announcement this week going into the sports space, which of course we're seeing all kinds of stuff there with karate combat and a lot of the other things that are going on, but it was around Lokkaroom. So Lokkaroom was developed by TMA Sport and enables the delivery of meaningful and rewarding experiences that maximize fan participation through innovative engagement opportunities. Partners first acquire their own locker room and then choose from a variety of modular features to build products and activities for their supporters. Leveraging the Hedera Token Service, HTS, this experience offering so far includes NFT collectibles, fan voting, and rewards. So what were your thoughts on Lokkaroom?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see another product leveraging the full sort of token service suite, the non-fungible side of it and the fungible side of it. So within the Lokkaroom ecosystem, as they said, is that they're going to have, their own fungible tokens. Each, club or sportsman or whoever is on there will have their own token. And that token will be pegged to the pound or the whatever currency they're dealing in, rather than just being its own token to fluctuate up and down with the market. Fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens. There's obviously a big incentive for these clubs, for these sportsmen to create a greater bond with their fans. That's always been the case throughout history. Is how can people both become close to their fans but monetize on them? And we've obviously seen that Web3 is a real driver of that new value for these clubs, for these people, and it's great to see them doing that on Hedera. And I think at the end it even said that they've got a number of late stage partnerships ready to come. So hopefully that'll be some more teams, some more sports stars. And yeah, hopefully we'll hear more about that in the new year.
And their CEO, David Brandon, he said fans are seeking new ways to interact and engage with their chosen sports, clubs, and athletes. Clubs and athletes recognize this and want to reward the support of their fans and strengthen the community in a safe and secure environment. That's why it's important to partner with organizations that offer vision, stability, and governance in a rapidly emerging market. The carbon negative Hedera network is a perfect fit. So did I see something about Manchester as well in that release?
Not United, but
Oh,
the
close.
Manchester Giants. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, almost. They're a basketball team in
Okay.
the UK. So yeah, yeah, not the Manchester United that we all know so well.
Yeah, well, you got to start someplace, right?
Definitely.
All right, so Tomb Technologies also had an announcement this week, and we had Tomb Technologies on one of those investor pitch events. They did a pitch there. They did a fantastic job, and I was excited about it. But I thought what they came out with this week was really important. So what they said was, can identity actually be decentralized? If done right, we think so. We're connecting with W3C standards, the Hedera Public Network, Metamask Snaps, and the Verimo Labs framework, among others, to build this reality. So Zeb, what I thought was interesting about this was that they're actually going through MetaMask, but building this on Hedera. Did you catch this one as well?
Definitely. The EVM has been a bit of a game changer for Hedera, but there still are those friction points with things like MetaMask. There's just certain things that need to be smoothed out. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's a very new part of our technology stack, i.e., the upgraded Solidity smart contract service. So to see that there are these developments going on, like an integration with MetaMask Snaps, that's great. And again, like you said, seeing that MetaMask functionality with Hedera coincided, that's very bullish.
So yeah, and we have a quote from Don Bollers. He's the founder of Tomb Technologies, and he was the one doing that pitch event. He said, as part of Tomb Technologies' ongoing mission to advance decentralized identity technology, we'll begin by leveraging MetaMask to allow users to create their own Hedera DIDs, and of course that's decentralized identity, in collaboration with various ecosystem teams. This identity service will be an EVM-compatible identity service and integrated into an existing healthcare patient portal application through the MetaMask Identity Snap. Implementing this technology will set the stage for MetaMask Identity Snap, demonstrating its utility and capabilities while adding support for Hedera DIDs. It's also an important step to onboarding users and will be leveraging MetaMask's huge user base and extensible user interface to smoothly bring people on board. Now that's exciting because a lot of people use MetaMask for sure.
Definitely. I hadn't actually seen the whole of that article, so
Yeah.
that's really exciting. That's yeah, news on the spot for me. So yeah, it has been announced, and that's very, very cool.
Yeah, and the next thing I wanted to get into, we're talking about all these enterprise level things that are getting introduced, but we're also getting a fair amount of support from influencers in our space. Of course, Mason is always out there saying Hedera is at the top, but we have BitBoy, and he's over the past couple months started to see some of the light when it comes to Hedera, and now out of the 8 cryptos he has on his Twitter page, Hedera is one of them. So it's a pretty short list to have Hedera toward the top.
Definitely. I remember it was ages ago now. I mean, during last bull run, I remember someone asking him about HBAR, and he always said, he was like, I really think that's going to be a major player in the next bull run.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that that's what he's preparing for now. And, he's a massive influencer, one of the biggest. So to have him on side, I'm sure will do us very favorably.
Well, and he also put out some polls, and he had one with Hedera. I think he had 3 polls over last weekend, and each one of them had 4 cryptos, and he kind of had to pick between them. And Hedera pretty much tied Algorand for the top 2 spots in the poll that we were in. The thing that all this reminds me of is, back in 2017, there was a narrative around that bull run, and it was around retail and it was around ICOs, things like that. And, in 2021, it was about institutional involvement, VCs getting involved. And of course, Solana got wrapped up in that because it had a lot of VC backing. A lot of that was with FTX, but, that supercharged their bull run. The next one, we're not sure what that narrative will be, and then we don't know when that's going to happen, but I'm pretty confident that it will come at some point. And one of the things that we've been teasing out, and you've been talking about this a fair amount, is the utility bull run. And we talked a bit about this with the Bloomberg article, but what are your thoughts around that possibly being the narrative that catches some backing next time around?
I've seen it for a while. Some of the bigger influencers have mentioned this idea of a utility bull run based around coins that are driving real world value and doing real world things, beyond speculation, like tangible, on chain, getting stuff done. And that's been in the back of my head since the last bull run, really. And it was sort of teased then, and the market still wasn't mature enough to really come to terms or something like that. If it takes another year, 2 years, however long, the market's only going to become more and more mature by that point. The real world value is going to be measurable. Hopefully, we'll see those big TPS use cases come on. TVL, we'll see more and more use cases that we probably haven't even thought about yet, that perhaps no one's even thought about yet. But the thing that really sort of drove it home for me was that Circle, i.e. Circle Pay USDC, they did a event, I think it was about 3 months ago. I can't actually remember the name of the event, sorry. They were at this event, and the major slogan, I guess, of the event or thesis was the utility phase of Web3. And so to see one of the big dogs like USDC, backed by Coinbase, obviously already filtering that, that kind of terminology into the wider market this early really makes me think that by the time we do get to that next bull run, there will be a different maturity of the market and people will be looking for the best coins that are doing real world things. Maybe we'll even have regulation by then, who knows? And that'll go back to what I said at the start. But I really think, yeah, there'll be this bull run narrative around utility. And that's definitely one that I want to be looking out for and helping drive for sure.
Well,
Not financial advice.
of course. But, Hedera is really well positioned for this. I mean, every week we come in and week out, and we have 8, 10, 12, 20 different, value add use cases that we're highlighting here, and we can't even keep up with it all. Some of them will work out, some of them will fail. These are all startups. Obviously there are some enterprises, and we'll get into that in a minute, but I just think it's really well positioned. And there's a lot of things. The other thing that keeps coming up is this ISO 20022 compliance. Now, I think it's a bit of a misnomer. They talk about chains that are compliant with that standard. I think it's more that the applications that are built on top of these platforms can be compliant to that standard. And from what I understand, things that are built on top of Hedera can meet those standards, but it's not really about the chain. But that's another thing that's brought up. And, I just think across the board, there's so many things that are being built in this space. And if that is the narrative that catches some traction, we could see Hedera being at the forefront of that narrative.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing about the ISO 20022 language. Like you said, it's not baked into the DLT itself. It's a language that DLTs can facilitate because of the application uses that language kind of thing. And I know, having had conversations, that there is talks of having like a proof of concept around something like that, just to really reinforce that, we can do that, even though, there's, like you said, there's ideas of what that actually means. But to have that proof of concept, I think would be amazing to show an application that uses that language on the Hedera DLT. I think that would cement it and really help us out. So I'm hoping that something like that comes out, and I've heard some desire to do that. So hopefully, yeah, we'll see something there at some point.
So the next thing we wanted to get into, we talked a little bit about startups being in our space, but of course there's also enterprises. One of them is DLA Piper, one of the Hedera governing council members, and they've built Toko, and it's to tokenize securities pretty much across the entire space. And they have the legal know-how to make sure that that's done right. Hedera put out a quick clip running through what they're doing, and I wanted to highlight it. So here it is.
Toko is a global business, but it's obviously critical that we have presence in some of the virtual assets and crypto hubs around the world, including obviously Miami. So Toko is a wholly owned subsidiary of DLA Piper. What I was looking for was the opportunity to create a complementary technology that could be delivered in combination with legal services to provide something that clients want, but isn't necessarily available either from a traditional technology business or indeed a traditional legal business. So that was the origin and the sort of rationale for creating a very complex sort of next generation blockchain-based Web3 company within a law firm, because it isn't necessarily an obvious connection at first blush. It was a business that was incubated as part of the firm's Radical Change initiative, where we were looking to develop non-legal services businesses within the structure of the law firm, but in a way that allowed us to do something that was more than law, but also complementary to the delivery of legal services. One of the ambitions around Toko is actually to democratize finance. Toko, in combination with the legal services, actually provides clients with a solution or an answer to the question, how do I fractionalize or do fundraisings or issue virtual assets in a way that is compliant and also technologically sound? When we started envisaging what does a complex security token ecosystem in a global decentralized marketplace, what does that maybe look like? And the presumption that those global financial centres that exist today in the traditional world are going to be the same ones in that new world, I think is a presumption that needs to be challenged. And then we thought to ourselves, so if that's where we want to get to, what is the technology platforms we need to bring to bear on that problem? I had the privilege of meeting with Mance and Lehman in Singapore. I can remember the breakfast at a hotel around the marina. I was just intently listening, and it was fascinating to hear that they had built a technology platform that seemed to have all of those attributes that were going to be essential for delivering the vision that we were hoping to start building towards. And to put some, points around what that meant at the time and what that looked like, it was things like the scalability. You need a protocol that's going to be capable of scaling to deal with that transaction volume. There were other features like the level of security. The consensus layer is important. I think there were other things like the stability of the network, like the fair ordering and timestamping. These were the attributes we're going to need when this global decentralized marketplace for security tokens takes off. That was really the foundational layer of our interest in Hedera. We joined the Hedera Governing Council, we learned about their technology, and they've been very supportive in helping us sort of bridge the gap. We were, after all, only a law firm. The opportunity to participate in a council of enterprises that are looking to build the future on Hedera, being able to then collaborate with them because we bring different skills and things than they do, is going to be more powerful than just doing it on your own. I think we're going to see very broad adoption of the technology over the next few years. And we are really on the cusp of the decentralisation and democratisation of financial services. And I'm really excited about the opportunity around participation by more people in this ecosystem. We're barely at the foothills of what I think is going to be a very exciting and large mountain that we're all about to climb in this space. Being able to be a law firm changing the world, sitting next to a bank changing the world, and a large IT company changing the world, maybe we could change the world together.
So yeah, I've been talking about Toko for years now. We interviewed them way back when we initially started doing the Hedera Forum, and it doesn't seem like their attention to this is changing. And with Aberdeen coming out and saying they're going to be tokenizing, they want to tokenize, I think, all of their funds at some point, but of course they're going to start small, but they have $500 billion in assets under management. So this stuff could get really exciting really quick. What were your thoughts there, Zep?
Again, it goes back to that thing that we've said in a few episodes, which is this idea of total value represented. A new metric that seems that ledgers like Hedera that are bringing real world value on chain that doesn't have a metric yet. We're going to have to do something about that, I think, because, as we've said, we're moving into a more mature stage of the market. And we seem to be leading that in the sense that for some of the stuff we're doing, metrics don't really exist yet that are university adopted, which is very bullish, but also kind of annoying. So I think, we're going to have to be driving those new metrics. And I'd love to see that sort of being permeated throughout the market. So yeah, DLA Piper, Aberdeen, driving real world value that we haven't really seen yet. And I think yesterday I saw, so DLA Piper, I haven't read fully through it yet, so sorry about that. But they said the headline was Toko using tokenization to boost property syndicate investment in New Zealand. So this is again Toko going out there again into another country, again wanting to get this real value on chain. So hopefully we'll learn more about that soon.
Yeah, and they've already come to market. They've tokenized bonds, so of course those are securities, and it's all built on Hedera. All right, the other thing that really caught my eye was around micropayments this week. And I really get excited about micropayments because I think it could provide the killer app in a lot of places for Hedera. And Ben, aka Speed of Gossip, put out a great YouTube video talking about micropayments, specifically around its use in YouTube. And he wants to build a proof of concept and bring it to YouTube, highlight it to YouTube. So I wanted to show a quick clip. I got permission to show this quick clip from his video. Of course, you should go watch the whole thing, but here, check it out.
What if we could inject more money into the YouTube platform in a way that newly created channels and channels that don't fit well into the advertising model could receive income from the get-go. Introducing micropayment. A micropayment is a small transaction amount that is usually spent on digital product over the internet. Micropayments can work in one of two ways. One, through a prepaid system. Two, at the point of sale. Micropayments can range from a few pennies up to several dollars, or even as small as a fraction of a penny. A number of micropayment systems were proposed and developed in the mid to late 1990s, all of which were automatically unsuccessful because transaction fees often exceeded the payments themselves. Up until recently, micropayments were not economically feasible. Recent technologies have opened up the doors to this sort of payment. One example is Drop. This is a micropayments platform that allows consumers and merchants to make and accept payments as small as a fraction of a cent for physical and digital goods and services. Drop is unique in that it accepts both fiat and cryptocurrency, as well as maintains complete privacy of consumer transactions. They recently added a plugin in Shopify that lets its merchants charge fractions of a penny for digital goods. Check them out at drop.cc. Make content creators more money with microtransactions. What if we made all current vanity metrics on YouTube a micropayment? I made a list of all the desirable metrics inside YouTube. What if we added a fraction of a penny to each one? How much money would a small channel that gets likes make? Even its audience could make money from a helpful or witty comment. What else can we add money to besides vanity metrics? So in conclusion, ads are not going anywhere anytime soon. There's just way too much money being poured in by big companies that it wouldn't make economic sense to replace them. I think a YouTube without ads would not be as big as it is. Maybe adding micropayments can help small channels, users, and YouTube inject more money into what elevate the value of each video. I will be making a small demo of what a YouTube with micropayments would look like, and later on adding real microtransactions to that demo to simulate real money being transferred around with each action. If this works, I will share this with people smarter than me, ask for their feedback, iterate, and tweet to people that work at YouTube and different content creators to hopefully push for this to get implemented in the real YouTube. So what do you think? Can we make YouTube more money while helping out small content creators and channels that don't fit in with its advertising model? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you do know someone who could make this happen, please share this video with them.
All right, the reason I wanted to highlight this is, of course, he was talking about Drop there as well. And I think it's a way that we can highlight in a proof of concept that Ben's going to develop, highlight Hedera's potential for micropayments, and then we can get it in front of one of the largest companies. Of course, Google is already one of the Hedera council members, but YouTube is a separate part of Google that might not be aware of what's possible. So I want to get a hold of this proof of concept and make sure we get it in front of as many of the right people as we can. Any thoughts there, Zep?
I mean, definitely. It's a value proposition that makes so much sense because you have these smaller YouTubers, you have the middle tier YouTubers, and a lot of them use Patreon. A lot of them use this sort of coffee jar tipping thing. They use third parties, basically. So the money that could be staying in the YouTube ecosystem is leaving. It's going to third parties that are charging their own, interest on it or whatever, charging their own fees. But if we could bring something like that to YouTube and say, you've got these smaller influencers, these smaller YouTubers that everyone wants to send money to. They've got a very loyal fan base, but at the moment they can't do anything within YouTube. Mm-hmm. Give YouTube that solution. They can charge a tiny fee on that, and that's another revenue stream. And obviously, every single company wants additional revenue streams. So I mean, once that proof of concept is baked out, I'd love to see Google making that conversation, like you said there. Hopefully Richard Widman, he's a passionate, he's been in some of the Hedera Twitter spaces. He's been backing Hedera for a while. He's been in all the governing council meetings. So hopefully he'd be a good point of contact there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And shifting gears a little bit, I want to get back into wallets. Last week, we covered Walla Wallet a fair amount, and the HBAR Foundation had an announcement that came out this week. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So last week, we covered their new updates, which were multi-file nesting within an NFT. So that could, you could have 6 different file types all within one NFT. And they were basically showcasing the full utility of what Hedera NFTs currently facilitate, and enabling all of that to be viewed from within their wallet. So that was a big update there. And there was other things within that as well. But this week we saw that they've now got that partnership with the foundation. So it's great to see that. And well deserved. They were the first. They came out of the hackathon in 2018 maybe. Mm-hmm. 2018. They're the first mobile application for a wallet for Hedera. So it's really great to see them getting that additional support. Definitely.
Yeah, I have a couple accounts in my Walla Wallet app, so it's good to see them getting that support. The next thing we wanted to cover is Aniseed. So we talked about them last week or maybe the week before, and they actually got nominated for 2 crypto awards from Crypto AM. So I just want to give a shout out to them. Congratulations on that one. All right, Zep, and you also wanted to cover Rob Allen, one of our superstars at the HBAR Foundation at NFT Fest 2022. What were your thoughts of what came out of that?
Yeah, I mean, as we've said before, there's Hedera, I think, has the biggest foothold perhaps in Australia in terms of Web3 brand recognition. I remember speaking to Wes a while ago, Wes Geisenberger, and he was sort of shouting out Rob at the time. He was saying, he went to, Wes is from the States. He went over to Australia to go to one of these events. And he said it was the first event he'd been to where Hedera was the main name top of mind. And, that comes down to what Rob has managed to do over there with EFTPOS, with ANZ Bank stablecoin, which is the 3rd biggest bank by market capitalization in Australia. And so to see them out there again, this time on a panel with the Australian Stock Exchange, as well as the National Australian Bank, which I believe is the 4th biggest bank by market capitalization in Australia. And the last time we saw Rob on one of these panels was at Australia Blockchain Week, I think, with ANZ Bank. And then, however many months later, we had that announcement by the stablecoin. I have no idea if there is anything being built there with these other 2 actors that I've just mentioned. I'm sure Rob had been talking to them in private about the power of the Hashgraph, if not live on that panel. So, we're definitely on the radar for those 2 entities.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. Rob is a great ambassador, and we love to see him get involved wherever it is. So crypto custody is top of mind lately with all the stuff that happened with FTX, and of course, self-custody. We went over that a lot last week. We talked about that a lot in the last Twitter space that we had, but Hex Trust is actually doing that for enterprises, and they announced something this week. They said staking support for Hedera is live, enabling institutions to participate in staking the protocol's native token HBAR. In partnership with BCW, HT Markets also provides auto compounding, a first of its kind offering through its staking wallet service. What I think is interesting about this is we've talked about staking a lot in terms of retail, but we really haven't talked about it in terms of institutions that would want to get involved. But there may be a lot of institutions that do want to get involved, and they probably don't want to do self-custody. So a trusted custodian like Hex Trust makes a lot of sense for them.
Definitely, and I think that all loops around to what we said at the very beginning with that Bloomberg article, that there are more institutional eyes from outside of Web3 that have Hedera on their radar to some extent. And I'd like to see that, Hex Trust will facilitate them to partake in our economy. Like you said, without having to have that become an expert in self-custody, which we know is a friction point in Web3 at the moment.
Sure, absolutely. It's good to see these services popping up, even though, it's going counter to some of the narratives that are out there right now. Centralized custody will come back in certain ways, and Hex Trust is a trusted entity. Of course, they are one of the validators for Hashport, and they're very involved with BCW Group. And we've done interviews with them in the past, and I'm sure we'll get some more information over the weeks to come. All right, you want to get into some network analysis? So total transactions over the past 24 hours are still under 1 million. I'm not sure if that has to do with the holiday here in the US. Smart contracts are down a little bit as well, sitting at 14,000 smart contract transactions over the past 24 hours. Time to consensus is still under 5 seconds. What about account creation? You got anything on that, Zep?
Yeah, account creation's down at the moment as well. So it looks like this week hasn't been our most lively. But again, like we said, it's the holidays. A lot of people spending time with their family, engagements across social media have been down a lot as well.
Sure.
So I'm sure there's some correlations there.
And as far as the fungible tokens, we still have Energy Trade Token at the top, and that's from their faucet. They're distributing some tokens under that. Hopefully we can get that team on once they start to develop a little bit further. We're still seeing in the top 10, Wrapped HBAR, Sauce, Lucky Token is up there. We talked about Lucky Token just last week. They're doing a great job. Dovu's in the top 10, USDC, and so forth. All right, and moving on to our NFTs, one of our builders in the space is creating some really good tools and put out a video and a tweet showing some of the tools actually in use that can be used by some of our NFT builders in the space. Do you have any information on this one, Zeb?
Yeah, so Kabila, they've been building the ecosystem for a while now. I think I've really sort of seen them in the last year, but they've been doing a great job at rallying the Spanish community even before this tooling. I've seen a lot of their Hedera spaces. They've got two channels, one English speaking, one Spanish. And I saw sort of 40, 50 names that I've never seen before that obviously speak Spanish, maybe not English native. And so it's really cool to see them tapping into that side of Web3, really. The tooling that came out was Kabila Labs. I think it's sort of the first instance of it. It's been really cool to see. It's essentially a way for, well, really anyone to get involved in creating NFTs. And this doesn't mean just like, like uploading one NFT on, not that that isn't a great thing. Like, on some of the marketplaces, they support uploading individual NFTs, maybe 5 or 6 at a time, but they don't allow you to create different feature sets on that from within the application. So what Kabila app is doing is it's doing this sort of no-code solution whereby, like my dead pixel here, for instance, he's got a jetpack, this one's got the hair, this one's got the, the boxing, everything. But the main frame is that small ghost and all these assets are built around it. And Kabila would let you take this, this white ghost here and say, right, I'm going to have 100 different features, but they've all got to be randomly allocated. They can't have 2 on the same thing, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. So it allows you to put all those features together, collate all those features, press that randomize button, whatever it is, and come out with your own entirely new collection of completely unique items or pieces of art or collections, whatever it is. And so it's really breaking down that boundary for someone like myself who can't do that coding side, but might like to create a collection. And that kind of thing is what will bring in the next wave of creators, I think, into our ecosystem. So they're doing a fantastic job there. And from within that, they do all of the features. They've got like token freeze, burn. I think they even had KYC if you wanted it. That real full set of the token service, what it facilitates. So it's really cool to see someone doing that. And yeah, excited for what comes out of that in terms of building community and what they continue to do.
The NFT space, the innovation in our NFT space is really a blistering pace. It's amazing, whether it's collaboration. I had a meeting this week between Earthlings and Web2.3, and they're talking about doing some really interesting things in the gaming metaverse that Earthlings is developing. But, stuff like this, it's another thing. It just comes out of nowhere. We have so many smart teams that are building in the space that are going to create those tools that hopefully are going to bring the next wave of adoption into our space. So it's exciting to see.
Definitely. I mean, on that point, it's like it feels like we're getting to, the foundation is really there to bootstrap everything, and continue to build and continue to build, but it's dynamic, and the point is that these funds change with the market. They see certain needs, they fill certain plug holes, etc., etc. But what we're really starting to see is like what Brady always says is this term, the flywheel, whereby the stuff that's been created is now bouncing off each other. Little things are picking each other up. It's like this self-perpetuating machine now. And we're seeing all of these bits coming together, all of this infrastructure, new builders coming in that we don't even know about. And it seems like it's now becoming much more self-sustaining. And that's really been the goal of the foundation since inception. So it's great to see, that the foundation's helping in that sense, but also, these amazing builders are here and using the tooling that we have, creating this new tooling. And like you said, the innovation in the NFT space in particular is outstanding. So very excited to keep monitoring that.
Yeah, and just taking a look at some of the other stuff that's going on in our NFT space, we have HBAR Vox has put out a bunch over the past 24 hours, and I would like to get them on here to explain exactly what they do. And it's a way where you can pay a little bit extra to get highlighted on a larger Twitter handle. Again, that's some interesting innovation in our space. We have Slime World, of course, is up there. We have Floppy Ears and Friend. I haven't heard of that one before. We have Pixel Drops throwing some in the top 10 as well. Any other thoughts on NFTs before we move on?
So yeah, the big one that I haven't mentioned yet is yesterday, Zeus Market crossed 100 million HBAR total volume. Just the rate of growth has been, I've just used this word, but again, outstanding. The NFT growth this year has been phenomenal. The amount of new users it's brought in, the amount of new community members, what they're doing there is just incredible. And Zeus has been a huge cornerstone of that, a huge facilitator of that. The sky's really the limit for Zeus and what's going on there. So big shout out to Zeus Market, and of course all the creators that created that volume.
All right, so moving on to DeFi. On Saucer Swap, we're looking at nearly $16 million total value locked, and I think that's because of the value of the assets. Some of the assets have gone up a bit. In terms of the farming rewards, HBAR USDC is sitting at 67%, HBAR Sauce is sitting at 50%, and HBAR X is sitting at about 21%. Now, those rewards are paid in both HBAR and their native cryptocurrency Sauce. We've talked about that a fair amount. As far as their liquidity rewards, HBAR X is sitting at 0.8%, a little under 1%. Sauce HBAR is sitting at 2%. USDC HBAR is sitting at about 15%. So that USDC HBAR is looking really good right now as far as the LP rewards. And of course, that's on top of the farming rewards. There's plenty of potential in DeFi, but there's also plenty of risks, including impermanent loss, the risk of custody. You have to custody your own tokens, and of course, things like smart contract risk and others. So certainly take that into consideration when you're getting involved with DeFi. All right, something that caught my eye this week, Zep, that I wanted to touch on is Phantom Talk. So obviously an influencer that is involved in the Phantom ecosystem, and I'm not going to talk too much about that. They highlighted the speed of the relative dexes out there. And Spooky Swap, which is a Phantom protocol, was number 2, but Saucer Swap was number 1, but they still wanted to highlight it, I guess because their platform was number 2. But I thought this one was interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, that was great to see. And, the crazy thing is that the Phantom influencer actually created that graphic himself. Mm-hmm. And I said on the post, I was like, thank you so much for covering Hedera. It's very noble of you. It's very un-Web3 in terms of Twitter. And he said, I'm here to just highlight the amazing thing that everyone's doing. So hopefully, we've got a new supporter there from, a big channel. He had like 30K or something, if I remember correctly. To see that tip of the cap towards Hedera is great. And obviously, just to see how far Saucer Swap is amazing. We've always said before we even had DeFi, even Eric Wall, what he said originally in his blog on Hedera is that Hedera can't facilitate these kind of things. And obviously, a lot's changed since then. We got the token service, we got the smart contract service. And now not only can it facilitate them, but it can do it better than any other chain on the market. Yeah. That's the Hedera, the ethos, that once we do something, we do it properly. And great to see Saucer Swap on there leading the pack in terms of speed.
Yeah, I think Eric was missing a big part of the puzzle here is it was before development. We got smart contract 2, things like that, but Hedera can develop, and it can develop efficiently, more efficiently than a lot of other platforms, because it does have that effective governance. It's not just, a bunch of miners or developers that have to argue and figure out how they're going to implement things. They're efficient at getting things implemented and doing it in a safe manner. The other thing I wanted to touch on with this is, even though Saucer Swap was the only Hedera DEX on the list, any DEX that actually uses Hedera is going to have similar speeds. So HeliSwap and Lehman Swap and other ones that are coming down the line, they're all going to see similar speeds, even though Saucer Swap was the only one that was highlighted here. And speaking of HeliSwap, they're sitting at a total value locked of almost $6 million. So that's good to see. That's come up a little bit over the past week. But I have noticed another thing on HeliSwap, like HBAR X, its farming rewards are down to 19.9%. So it's actually a little bit below that of Saucer Swap. USDC HBAR is still a bit higher at 76%, but we're starting to see them being pretty even across the board. The thing that's going to change, though, is HeliSwap is going to start to incorporate multi-rewards, including their own Heli token. So whatever value that has, that's going to be on top of the HBAR rewards that they're giving out. So we should see a bump up in some of the farming rewards when their token does launch. And moving on to Stater, like a broken record each week, they are still sitting at an APY at just under 10%. The HBAR X HBAR exchange rate is 1.1996 HBAR per HBAR X, meaning that you've almost earned 20% if you've been involved with Stater liquid staking from the beginning. And the TVL, the total value locked on Stater, is at 1.347 billion HBAR. So that's pretty much flat over the past week as well. Moving on to the crypto and HBAR market, HBAR is up just under 2% over the past week. We have seen a few higher lows, and that is kind of setting up a wedge pattern. Right now, HBAR is sitting at about 4.9 cents. Risk assets got a little bit of a boost this week when the Federal Reserve minutes came out. That's the central bank of the United States, saying that they might slow down the pace of interest rate rises going forward. So still, I'm looking at support around 4.3, 4.4 cents for HBAR, and there should be resistance around 5 cents. And I saw there was some discussion on Twitter around, is there any benefit to staking to one node over another? And there's two things that I'm going to want to look at when it comes to native staking on Hedera. Number one is there's a minimum threshold and a maximum threshold. And to get that maximum 6.5% return, you want to make sure you're in between that minimum and maximum. Now, all of the nodes right now have staking allocations between those limits. So you're going to get the maximum no matter which one you stake to, but that could change in the future. I know FTPOS is getting close to their upper limit, so it's something to keep an eye on going forward. And the other thing you want to keep an eye on is the Hedera status page. So if one of these nodes goes down for any reason, if it's maintenance, if there's an issue, and of course we can certainly see that, you won't get rewards while those nodes are down. Right now we have a partial outage for Nomura, Shinhan Bank, and ServiceNow. So I'm not sure, since these are partial outages, if you're actually getting impact as far as your staking rewards, but I would probably go with a different node until those get back up and are fully operational. All right, Zeb, that's pretty much all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
So one final thing that I forgot to touch on was the Agora Global Blockchain Congress, which is currently ongoing in Dubai. And the only way you can get into this Congress is if you're either a VC, a private investor with, a fairly substantial amount of capital, or a startup. And I looked at who was attending, and the foundation was there as a gold sponsor. Headstarter, who's the premier launchpad on Hedera, they're a gold sponsor. But we also had Karate Combat, we had Heliswap, we had Crypsy. So that's another 3 Hedera ecosystem projects, all as sponsors of this event, all talking at the event, all at the booth. And I saw Vignesh on a panel with some various other people, but also Crypsy there. And there's also Simons were there as well, as in SIEMENS. And so there were, 2 big names there on that panel. Vignesh is obviously a powerhouse at the foundation. He leads the Middle East and Asia for the BD team at the foundation. So yeah, I'm really excited to see if any VC were excited about the projects we had there, if there's ongoing discussions, and I'm sure we'll learn more there.
Yeah, actually, I've been talking to some of the team members that went, and we might actually do our Twitter space, which we either hold at 4 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. But we're going to try to get the people that went there and showed up, and we might be able to get an AMA, something along those lines. So I'm sure there's some good stories that have come out of that, and we'll try to get the information for the viewers. All right, we appreciate everyone who watched today. We come to you every Friday with the latest in Hedera news and events. If you are an HBARbarian, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment down below, and we'll see you next week.